Something that's probably been holding you back for a long time. Something that you may not even fully realize is standing in your way. It's that weak version of yourself. The one who doubts, who procrastinates, who makes excuses, and who settles for less than what you truly deserve. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to kill that version. I'm going to walk you through the steps to stop letting that weak version of yourself dictate your life, and show you how to step into the strong, confident, and unstoppable person you were always meant to be. But before we dive into it, let me be clear, this is not about being perfect. It's not about getting everything right all the time. It's about making a decision to do better, to act better, to be better. It's about taking control of your life, your choices, and your future. If you've been feeling stuck or frustrated with where you are in life, if you've been letting fear, doubt, or laziness hold you back from achieving your full potential, this message is for you. You don't have to stay in that place of weakness. You don't have to let that version of yourself keep you from the success, happiness, and fulfillment you deserve. So stay with me. I promise you this. Today you'll have a clear roadmap for how to kill that weak version of yourself and step into a version of you that's strong, empowered, and ready to take on the world. The only question is, are you ready to take action and make it happen? Let's get into it. Number 1, why this matters right now. What if the person you are today is the biggest obstacle to the life you truly want? Let that sink in for a moment. Not your circumstances, not your past, not the people around you, but you. That weak, hesitant, excuse-filled version of yourself that clings to comfort and avoids challenge. That's what's holding you back. And until you face it, until you decide that enough is enough, nothing will change. Here's why this matters, and why it matters right now. Time is slipping through your fingers. Every second, every minute that passes is gone forever. You don't get to rewind the clock. You don't get a second shot at this moment. And the question is, what are you doing with it? Are you letting it slip away? Are you giving it to that weaker version of yourself who keeps whispering, not today, or you're not ready yet? Because that voice isn't just costing you time, it's costing you opportunities, it's costing you growth, and it's costing you the life you could be living. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Jim, that sounds harsh. Aren't we supposed to give ourselves grace? Be patient with the process. And I agree, there's a time for patience. But patience isn't the same as procrastination. Grace isn't the same as making excuses. You've got to know the difference. Because the truth is, life doesn't wait for you to be ready. Life keeps moving. And if you're standing still, you're falling behind. Here's the deal. The person you are today is the result of the choices you've made up until now. Think about that. Every decision you've made, every time you chose to act or not to act, has shaped who you are and where you are right now. And if you're not where you want to be, if you're not living the life you dream of, it's because that weaker version of yourself has been calling the shots. Now, I don't say that to make you feel bad. I say it because you need to hear it. Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable, but it's also the first step toward change. Because once you recognize what's holding you back, you can do something about it. You can start making different choices. You can start becoming the person you're meant to be. But here's the thing. This isn't going to happen on its own. Nobody is coming to rescue you. Nobody is going to swoop in and say, here's the life you've always wanted, all wrapped up in a bow. That's not how this works. If you want more, you have to become more. You have to kill that weak version of yourself, the one who settles, who hesitates, who says maybe tomorrow, because tomorrow isn't promised. All you have is today. Let me tell you why this matters so much. It's because the choices you make today determine who you'll be tomorrow. Every time you let the weak version of yourself win, you're reinforcing those habits. You're strengthening that part of yourself that wants to stay small, that wants to stay comfortable. But every time you choose to fight back, every time you take a step forward, even when it's hard, you're building momentum. You're proving to yourself that you're capable of more. Think about it this way. The weak version of you is afraid of change. It's afraid of failure. It's afraid of discomfort. So it does everything it can to keep you stuck. It tells you it's too hard. It tells you you're not ready. It tells you what's the point. And if you listen to that voice, it wins. But here's the good news. You don't have to listen. You have a choice. You can decide right now to stop letting that voice control you. You can decide to start listening to the stronger version of yourself, the one who knows you're capable of more. And let me tell you something about that strong version of you. It's already there. It's not something you have to create. It's not something you have to find. It's already inside you, just waiting for you to let it take the lead. So how do you do that? How do you start silencing the weak version of yourself and letting the strong version take over? It starts with one decision, just one. Decide today that you're done making excuses. Decide that you're going to take action, no matter how small, to move closer to the life you want. Maybe that means waking up an hour earlier to work on your goals. Maybe it means saying no to something that's been draining your energy. Maybe it means finally starting that project you've been putting off. Whatever it is, just start. Because here's the thing, once you take that first step, the next one gets a little easier, and then the next one. And before you know it, you're building momentum. You're proving to yourself that you can do this. And that's how you kill the weak version of yourself. Not by trying to overhaul your life all at once, but by taking small, consistent actions that add up over time. And let me tell you something else. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have days when you don't feel like it. Days when the weak version of yourself is louder than ever, telling you to give up, to go back to your old habits. But those are the moments that matter most. Those are the moments when you get to choose who you're going to be. So let me ask you again, what if the person you are today is the biggest obstacle to the life you truly want? Are you willing to let that version of yourself keep running the show? Or are you ready to take control, to start making different choices, to start becoming the person you're meant to be? Because the truth is, the life you want is possible. The person you want to become is within reach. But it's up to you. It's your choice. And the best time to start is right now. So what are you waiting for? Kill that weak version of yourself and take the first step toward the life you deserve. You've got this. I believe in you. Now it's time to believe in yourself. Number 2, recognizing the weak version of yourself. How well do you know yourself? Really think about that for a moment. Not the version of you that you present to the world. Not the version that plays it safe or does what's expected. I'm talking about the version of you that exists when no one else is looking. That quiet part of yourself that holds you back, makes excuses, avoids discomfort. You see, the truth is, we all have a weaker version of ourselves lurking inside. And if we're not careful, that version ends up running the show. But recognizing that weak version of yourself is where change begins. It's uncomfortable, I know. No one likes to admit their faults, their fears, or the areas where they've fallen short. But you have to look at it. You have to be honest with yourself. Because if you don't recognize it, you can't change it. So let me ask you, and I want you to answer this for yourself. Who is that weaker version of you? What does it look like? What does it sound like? How does it show up in your life? Maybe it's the voice that talks you out of taking risks. Maybe it's the part of you that says, I'll start tomorrow, when you know deep down you won't. Maybe it's the habits that keep you stuck in the same place, year after year. Maybe it's the fear of failing, or the fear of judgment, or even the fear of success. Whatever it is, I want you to face it. Really see it for what it is. Because the longer you avoid it, the more power it has over you. And here's the thing, that weak version of yourself is sneaky. It doesn't show up waving a red flag saying, hey, I'm here to hold you back. No, it's much more subtle than that. It disguises itself as procrastination, as doubt, as busyness. It convinces you that you're too tired, or too busy, or that now just isn't the right time. It whispers lies like, you're not good enough, or what if you fail? And before you know it, you're stuck, spinning your wheels, living the same day over and over again, all because you let that weak version of yourself take the wheel. But here's the good news. Just as that weaker version of you exists, so does the stronger one. The version of you that's confident, disciplined, focused, the version of you that's capable of overcoming challenges, of pushing through fear, of creating the life you want. And the difference between those two versions of yourself, it's choice. Every single day you have a choice about which version of yourself you're going to feed, which version you're going to listen to. So let's talk about what it really takes to recognize that weaker version of yourself and take your power back. It starts with awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. So I want you to start paying attention. Pay attention to your thoughts, your habits, your excuses. Notice when you're holding back. Notice when you're talking yourself out of something you know you should be doing. Notice when you're choosing comfort over growth. For example, think about your daily habits. Are they moving you closer to your goals, or are they keeping you stuck? When you wake up in the morning, are you hitting snooze because it's easier, or are you getting up and taking charge of your day? When you have a free moment, are you using it to learn, to grow, to take action? Or are you scrolling through your phone, wasting time? These small choices might not seem like a big deal in the moment, but they add up. They're either strengthening the weak version of yourself or the strong one. And let's talk about your self-talk, because that's where the weak version of yourself loves to hide. What are you saying to yourself on a daily basis? Are you lifting yourself up, or are you tearing yourself down? Are you telling yourself you can do this, or are you listing all the reasons why you can't? Because here's the truth. Whatever you tell yourself, you're going to believe. So if you've been letting that weak version of yourself dominate your inner dialogue, it's time to change the narrative. It's time to start telling yourself the truth, that you are capable, that you are worthy, that you have what it takes. But awareness is just the first step. Once you recognize that weaker version of yourself, you have to decide that you're not going to let it win. And that decision, it's not a one-time thing. It's a decision you have to make every single day. Because that weak version of yourself isn't going to just disappear. It's always going to be there, waiting for you to let your guard down. But every time you choose to rise above it, every time you choose to take action in spite of it, you weaken its grip on you. You prove to yourself that you're stronger. Now I want you to imagine something. Picture the life you want to live. Really picture it. The goals you want to achieve, the person you want to become, the impact you want to make. Now ask yourself, is the version of you that you're being today capable of creating that life? If the answer is no, then it's time to step up. It's time to let that stronger version of yourself take the lead. And here's the thing. It's not going to be easy. Change never is, but it's worth it. Because the alternative, staying stuck, letting that weaker version of yourself dictate your life, waking up one day filled with regret for the things you didn't do, the chances you didn't take, the person you didn't become. That's a far greater price to pay. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep letting that weak version of yourself call the shots? Or are you going to take control? Are you going to keep making excuses? Or are you going to start taking action? Because the choice is yours. No one else can make it for you. And the best part, the moment you decide, the moment you commit to recognizing that weaker version of yourself and refusing to let it win, that's the moment everything starts to change. You have so much potential inside of you. You have so much strength, so much courage, so much power, but it's up to you to tap into it. It's up to you to decide that the weak version of yourself doesn't get to define you anymore. So start today. Start right now. Recognize that weak version of yourself, and then make the choice to rise above it. Because the life you want is waiting for you, and you're capable of so much more than you realize. Don't let anything hold you back, especially not yourself. Number 3, the cost of letting the weak version win. What's the price you're paying for staying the same? Think about that for a moment. What is it costing you, right now in this very moment, to let that weaker version of yourself take over? It's not a comfortable question, is it? But it's one we have to face, because if you don't understand the cost, you'll never feel the urgency to change. You'll stay in the same spot, year after year, wondering why your life isn't what you dreamed it could be. The truth is, there's a price for letting that weaker version win. And it's not just one price. It shows up in so many areas of your life. It's the opportunities you miss because you didn't take action. It's the relationships you let slip because you were too scared to be vulnerable or honest. It's the dreams you bury because you convince yourself you're not good enough or it's not the right time. The cost, it's your potential. It's the life you could have lived if only you had been brave enough to step up and take control. Let's break this down, because I want you to really feel this. Imagine you have a goal, a dream you've been carrying around for years. Maybe it's starting your own business, or getting in the best shape of your life, or repairing a broken relationship. But every time you think about taking the first step, that weak version of yourself shows up. It tells you, what if you fail? What if people laugh at you? What if it doesn't work out? So you listen. You stay in your comfort zone. And what happens? A month goes by. A year goes by. Maybe 5 years go by. And that dream, it's still sitting there, untouched, while your life stays the same. Now think about how that feels. Think about the regret that starts to creep in. Because deep down, you know you were capable of more. You know you had it in you. But you let fear, doubt, and excuses hold you back. That's the cost. It's not just about the things you didn't do. It's about the person you didn't become. And that's a cost that can weigh on you for the rest of your life, if you're not careful. But it doesn't stop there. The weaker version of yourself doesn't just cost you your goals and dreams. It affects the way you show up in every area of your life. Think about your relationships. When you're letting that weak version of yourself take over, are you really being the partner, the parent, the friend you want to be, or are you holding back? Maybe you're afraid to speak your truth, or you're not fully present because you're too caught up in your own doubts and insecurities. And what does that do? It creates distance. It creates misunderstandings. It creates relationships that feel shallow, when deep down, you're craving something real and meaningful. And let's not forget about your health. How often do we let that weaker version of ourselves talk us out of taking care of our bodies? It says, I'll start eating better tomorrow, or I'll go to the gym next week. Meanwhile, your energy is low. Your confidence is low. You're not showing up as your best self because you're not taking care of the one body you've been given. And here's the harsh truth. That weak version of yourself doesn't care about your long-term health. It's only focused on the short-term comfort of skipping the hard stuff. But you're the one who has to live with the consequences. Now I know this might sound a little heavy, but it's not about making you feel bad. It's about waking you up. Because sometimes we get so caught up in our routines, in our excuses, that we forget what's really at stake. And what's at stake is your life. Your one precious life. The cost of letting that weaker version win isn't just measured in missed opportunities or unfulfilled dreams. It's measured in the quality of your life, in the way you feel about yourself, in the legacy you leave behind. But here's the good news. You don't have to keep paying that price. You can make a decision right now to take back control. You can decide that the weak version of yourself doesn't get to run the show anymore. And the first step, it's recognizing that cost, really feeling it. Because when you understand what you're losing by staying the same, you'll find the motivation to change. You'll stop making excuses. You'll stop settling for less. You'll realize that the price of staying stuck is far greater than the price of doing the hard work to grow. And let me tell you something else. The cost isn't just about what you lose. It's about what you could gain. Imagine for a moment what your life could look like if you let the stronger version of yourself take over. Imagine waking up every day with a sense of purpose and energy because you know you're on the right path. Imagine looking in the mirror and feeling proud of the person staring back at you because you know you're giving it your all. Imagine the relationships you could build, the impact you could make, the dreams you could achieve. That's what's waiting for you on the other side of this decision. But you have to make that choice. No one else can do it for you. No one else can step in and say, I'm going to take control of your life. It's up to you. It's always been up to you. And yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, there will be moments when you want to give up. When that weak version of yourself tries to sneak back in. But every time you choose to push through, every time you choose to keep going, you're building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. And that's priceless. So ask yourself, what's the cost of staying the same? What are you losing right now by letting that weak version of yourself take over? And then ask yourself, what's the cost of stepping up, of taking control, of becoming the person you were meant to be? Because yes, there's a cost to growth. It requires effort, discipline, and courage. But the rewards, they're worth it. Every single time. You have a choice to make. You can keep paying the price of staying stuck, or you can invest in your future, your growth, your potential. And let me tell you, the moment you make that decision, the moment you decide that the weak version of yourself doesn't get to win anymore, that's the moment your life begins to change. So don't wait. Don't let another day, another year, another decade slip by. The cost is too great. Step up, take control, and show yourself what you're really capable of. Number 4, uncovering the strong version of yourself. Let me tell you something that might just change the way you see yourself forever. There is a stronger, bolder, more capable version of you already inside you, waiting to be uncovered. That version of you isn't some far-off, distant dream. It's not some impossible goal. It's real, it's alive, and it's right there, underneath the layers of fear, doubt, and hesitation that have been holding you back. If you don't believe me, it's because you've spent so much time listening to the voice of your weaker self that you've forgotten what the stronger you even sounds like. But today, I want to remind you who you really are and what you're capable of. Let's get one thing straight. Uncovering the strongest version of yourself doesn't mean you have to become someone you're not. It's not about pretending to be perfect or trying to impress anyone. It's about stripping away all the things that aren't really you, all the excuses, all the fears, all the habits that are keeping you stuck, so that the real you, the best you, can shine through. You see, the strongest version of yourself isn't something you have to create from scratch. It's already there. Your job is to uncover it, to let it out, to give it the space to grow and thrive. Now, I want you to picture this for a moment. Imagine what your life would look like if you were operating at your full potential, not just in one area, but in all areas. Imagine waking up in the morning and feeling a deep sense of purpose because you know exactly who you are and what you're here to do. Imagine walking into a room with confidence because you've done the work to build yourself up and you're not afraid to show the world what you've got. Imagine the kind of relationships you could have if you stopped holding back, if you showed up as your most authentic, powerful self. That's what we're talking about here. That's what's possible when you uncover the strongest version of you. But let's get real for a second, because I know this isn't easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. Everyone would be living their best life, fully confident, fully present, fully alive. But the truth is, most people settle. Most people stay stuck in their comfort zones because they're afraid to do the hard work of facing themselves. They're afraid to confront their weaknesses, their fears, their failures. And you know what happens when you avoid that work. You stay small. You stay stuck. You live a life that's less than what you're capable of. And that's not what I want for you. So how do you uncover the strongest version of yourself? It starts with a decision to stop hiding, to stop settling, to stop making excuses. It's a decision to face yourself honestly and say, I know there's more to me than this. I know I'm capable of more, and I'm willing to do what it takes to bring that out. That decision is the spark. It's the starting point. But once you make it, you have to back it up with action. You have to be willing to put in the work. One of the first steps in this process is to get clear on who you really are. Not who the world thinks you should be. Not who your family or friends expect you to be. But who you truly are at your core. What are your values? What do you care about? What lights you up? What do you want your life to stand for? These are the questions you need to ask yourself. Because the stronger version of you is rooted in your truth. It's not about copying someone else or trying to fit into a mold. It's about being fully, unapologetically yourself. Once you're clear on who you are, the next step is to start aligning your actions with that truth. This is where the work really begins. Because let's face it, it's one thing to know what you want and who you want to be. It's another thing entirely to live it out every day. It means making choices that support your growth, even when they're hard. It means saying no to the things that don't align with your values, even when it's uncomfortable. It means holding yourself accountable, even when no one else is watching. And let me tell you, this process isn't going to be smooth or easy. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, moments when you want to give up, moments when that weaker version of yourself tries to take back control. But that's where the real growth happens. Because every time you push through those moments, every time you choose to keep going, you're uncovering a little more of your strength. You're proving to yourself that you're capable of more than you ever thought possible. You'll also start to notice something amazing. Momentum. At first, the changes might feel small. Maybe you wake up a little earlier to work on your goals. Maybe you make healthier choices in your diet. Maybe you start speaking up more in meetings or setting boundaries in your relationships. But over time, those small changes start to add up. They create a ripple effect that touches every area of your life. And before you know it, you're living in a way that feels aligned, powerful, and true to who you are. Now, I want to share something important with you. Uncovering the strongest version of yourself isn't just about you. Yes, it's about improving your own life, but it's also about the impact you have on others. When you step into your strength, you inspire the people around you to do the same. You show them what's possible. You become a light, a source of encouragement and hope. And that's one of the greatest gifts you can give to the world. So here's my challenge to you. Stop settling. Stop hiding. Stop listening to the voice that tells you you're not good enough. Instead, make the decision to uncover the strongest version of yourself. Start small if you have to. Take one step, then another. But don't stop. Keep going. Keep growing. Keep becoming the person you were meant to be. Because I promise you this, when you uncover the strongest version of yourself, you won't just change your life. You'll change the lives of everyone around you. And that's a legacy worth fighting for. Number 5, the power of small, consistent choices. I want you to really think about it. If your future self could talk to you right now, if the version of you that's stronger, more confident, more accomplished, could sit across from you, what would they tell you? What advice would they give? Would they thank you for the choices you're making today, or would they beg you to make different ones? Because here's the truth. The strongest, best version of yourself isn't created overnight. It's built, brick by brick, through the small, consistent choices you make every single day. That's the power of small, consistent choices. They're not flashy, they're not dramatic, but they are the foundation of every great transformation. And the beautiful thing is, they're within your control. Right now, today, you have the power to choose. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment or some big life event. You don't need permission from anyone else. It's about what you decide to do with the next 5 minutes, the next hour, the next day. And when you realize that, it's a game changer. Here's the thing about small choices. They're easy to overlook. It's easy to tell yourself, skipping this workout doesn't matter, or I'll start eating healthy tomorrow, or I'll work on my goals next week. But those small decisions add up. Every time you choose to hit snooze instead of getting up, every time you let fear or laziness win, you're feeding the weaker version of yourself. And every time you push through, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, you're feeding the stronger version of yourself. Let me tell you a little story. Years ago, I was in a place where I felt stuck. I wasn't where I wanted to be in life. And I was frustrated because I couldn't figure out how to change. I thought I needed some big breakthrough or some dramatic shift. But then I realized something. It wasn't about doing one big thing. It was about doing 100 little things every day, consistently. It was about making better choices, not perfect choices, just better ones, and sticking with them. And that's when everything started to change. You see, small choices might not feel powerful in the moment, but they have a ripple effect. Let's say you decide to wake up 30 minutes earlier tomorrow to work on a personal goal. That might seem like a small thing, but think about what happens when you do it consistently. You start to see progress. That progress builds confidence. That confidence makes you want to keep going. Before you know it, that one small choice has set off a chain reaction that changes your entire life. And it's not just about what you do, it's about who you become in the process. When you make consistent, intentional choices, you're not just building new habits, you're building a new identity. You're proving to yourself that you're someone who shows up, someone who follows through, someone who takes control of their life, and that identity. That's where real strength comes from. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but Jim, what if I mess up? What if I make the wrong choice or fall back into old habits? And let me tell you, that's going to happen. You're going to mess up. You're going to have days where you don't make the best choices. But that doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you have to give up, because the power of small, consistent choices works both ways. Just like one bad choice doesn't define you, one good choice can get you back on track. Think about it like this. Imagine you're trying to climb a mountain. Every step you take brings you closer to the top. But let's say you trip and fall down a few steps. Does that mean you should quit and go back to the bottom? Of course not. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you keep climbing. It's the same with your choices. What matters isn't whether you fall, it's whether you keep going. And here's another thing to keep in mind. Small choices aren't just about what you do, they're about what you think and believe. Every time you tell yourself, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, you're feeding that weaker version of yourself. But every time you choose to believe in your potential, every time you remind yourself of your goals, every time you choose to see yourself as capable and strong, you're feeding the best version of you. I want you to take a moment right now and think about one small choice you can make today to move closer to the person you want to be. Maybe it's choosing to spend 10 minutes reading instead of scrolling through your phone. Maybe it's choosing to prepare a healthy meal instead of grabbing fast food. Maybe it's choosing to have a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, make that choice. And then tomorrow, make another one. And another. Because the truth is, your life is the sum of your choices. And when you start making better choices, you start building a better life. Let me tell you something else. The power of small, consistent choices isn't just about achieving your goals. It's about finding joy in the process. When you focus on the small steps, you start to realize that growth isn't just about the destination. It's about the journey. It's about those moments when you push through, even when it's hard, when you surprise yourself with what you're capable of, when you look back and see how far you've come. Those moments are where the magic happens. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop telling yourself you'll start tomorrow, or next week, or next year. Start now. Start with one small choice. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be intentional. Because every time you choose to show up, every time you choose to do the work, every time you choose to feed the stronger version of yourself, you're creating the life you were meant to live. And remember this, small choices might not seem powerful in the moment, but they have the power to change everything. One step at a time, one day at a time, one choice at a time, you can become the person you were meant to be. So don't wait. Start now. And watch what happens when you make the decision to live with intention and consistency. You might just surprise yourself.
Click here for part 2.